Good afternoon. Welcome to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Good afternoon on a Friday afternoon. Going to be a busy weekend for me. I'm in Oklahoma City at Paycom Center tonight for the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Houston Rockets. Pro Hogs, Isaiah Joe, who is playing, started in Oklahoma City's last outing, has 3 starts this year. Not sure if he'll be playing off the bench in his 6-man roller in that starting group. Jalen Williams has been dealing with a hamstring injury. It's been problematic. He missed preseason. He's still out. Probably 4 or so weeks to go for him. We'll see if he's in the arena tonight. I'm in the press seating area. It's even higher up. There's more nosebleed action here than the press seating area at Bud Walton Arena. So I've been to games here on fan tickets. I've not been here as media. Been treated really well so far. But let's talk about what we're here for. Why are we here? We're going to preview Arkansas Baylor tomorrow. I'll be scooting down to Dallas late tonight. I'll be in American Airlines Center tomorrow to cover the Razorbacks and Bears. 16th ranked Arkansas, 8th ranked Baylor. Arkansas gets off to a 1-0 start to kick off tip-up that John Calipari era. Baylor not. The news wasn't as good for the Bears traveling out to Spokane, Washington on Monday. Season opening loss. They've had time to stew, get things fixed, corrected perhaps, but number 6 Gonzaga with a 38-point beat now, 101-63. Arkansas had mixed results in the exhibition season. Arkansas had, some struggle spots against Lipscomb, a good mid-major team on Wednesday. And so this will be an interesting matchup to see which team, because the headline there is not only are both teams ranked, which, you end the first week of the college basketball season for some bragging rights there, but you're really trying to add what eventually will be a quad 1 win to your resume. That's what's going to be at stake, because once the net rankings come out, both teams will be ranked in the top 50. You got to figure they'll stay there when the dust settles when March comes and net kind of resolves all your quad wins and losses and what levels are. So this is a quad 1 win opportunity for both teams on Saturday, Arkansas and Baylor. So that's worth trying to build your resume and worrying about getting a win that early. And if you don't win it, it's still a quality loss. You can learn from that. You got plenty of quad win opportunities for both teams in loaded conferences. The Big 12 and for Baylor, obviously, and then for Arkansas, the SEC is probably the best it's been. Added 2 teams, projected to get 9-10 teams into the NCAA tournament. There are probably 11 or 12 quality teams. Some outside that top 9 or 10 that'll have something to say about that. Baylor's going down. All right, I read one of the comments. You might be right about that. I know John Calipari says to be patient, and some of these games may not go the way you want it, but he wants that to be the case. That's certainly true. Scott Drew, I guess another storyline outside of a quad 1 win opportunity and 2 really good teams ranked. A lot of respect on both these school names coming into the basketball season. Is the fact that when Calipari was leaving Kentucky for Arkansas, Scott Drew was probably the first name thrown out there to replace him at Kentucky. We know how all that played out, and Calipari was asked about it in the post-game presser. What was that, Wednesday night after Arkansas defeated Lipscomb, and he, said good for Scott Drew and what he's built at Baylor. Mark Pope, Kentucky deserves a good coach, and they got it. And then he leaned back without being asked and says, "But I'm happy here. I'm happy where I'm at." And so we'll see. We'll see how that translates to wins and losses. The recruiting looks really good. Arkansas could be getting some good news from 5-star Malik Thomas on Monday when he makes his commitment announcement. I fully expect that. Then you'll have 2 top 10 rated 5-stars, both in the backcourt, complementary pieces, a 1 and a 2. And, similar to maybe like a Boogie Flane and DJ Wagner, there may be some versatility in what those guys bring to the court with the ability. Man, I'm having a hard time up here. I can't use there's not enough space up here to put the tripod down and do this. So I'm having to freehold it for the first time in a while. So my apologies for the shaky camera and trying to adjust it with the other hand. So let's get into this Baylor matchup. I think now that we've talked about kind of what the stakes are this early in the season even, and as we start thinking about, what does the matchup look like? I think both teams have some similarities. For one, Baylor shot 3 of 21 from 3 against Gonzaga. That's even worse than Arkansas's 4 of 19 against Lipscomb. So Arkansas was 21.1%. Baylor under 20% there, I think 18 plus. Didn't shoot well overall from the field, 37%. Got beat by 38. There probably weren't very many good stats. Baylor was also minus, I think they were minus the Bears 12 or 13 on the glass, 45-32, so minus 13. So a lot of things that Baylor's going to try to get corrected. Baylor was shorthanded like Arkansas was in the exhibition season. Langston Love, a veteran guard, comes back averaging double figures from last year. Was cleared to play, but it was a game-time decision. He did not play against Gonzaga. We'll see if he's back. We'll see if he's actually on the court and back. Baylor's front court likes to get physical. That's right. Josh O. Golly, I don't have a way to do this. I'm going to call him Josh O, just like Jacob O, whose long last name I couldn't pronounce. For Lipscomb, same with Josh. It's another J first name I can pronounce, Josh, and the last name starts with an O, 9 or 10 letters. He is physical. He's a returning player. Baylor's got some key guys back. When you look at Jaden Nunn, a guard, also didn't have a good game. Jeremy Roach, the transfer from Duke, is not a returnee for Baylor, but a veteran college guard that's been to a Final Four. And then you look at the freshman, BJ Edgecombe, and another freshman, Robert Wright III. Wright actually had a decent game against Gonzaga, 12 points, 6 assists off the bench. He's a freshman. BJ Edgecombe's the big name, 5-star. Shaky game for him, 2 of 11 from the field, I think only 5 points, but 7 rebounds. He had multiple blocks. He does a little bit of everything. He's an explosive player. But when you look at Baylor, it's a dangerous team, and I think Scott Drew will have this team looking to prove itself to be better, win or lose. And I expect this to be a tight game. I really do. I think Arkansas is going to be in another close game. You know, playing TCU in Dallas, this is a better quality team. Not every game is the same. Not every matchup is what you faced before. But I expect this to be one that maybe goes down to the wire. And you got to feel like the kind of program that Scott Drew runs, that embarrassing 38-point loss, he's going to figure out a way to make sure his team is better against the Razorbacks and position themselves to win it. So, you know, not making, predictions on exactly how that game's going to play out. I probably give a slight edge to Baylor just because they had extra days to prepare, and they're going to try to get well and even up their record against 2 ranked teams in their opening week. Maybe an edge to Baylor there just because of those 2 factors closer to home than that. But the Razorbacks can certainly win this game. Again, if both teams shoot poorly from 3, that's kind of a level playing field for Arkansas, because even though Lipscomb didn't shoot its normal percentage, it still made 9 of 27. On the other side, Arkansas was going 4 of 19. Arkansas was better everywhere else, dominated in the paint. I don't know that we're going to see points in the paint favor Arkansas plus 32 like it did against Lipscomb. I don't think it'll be like that. And you go back to the 2 preseason games, Arkansas was basically even. Maybe minus just a little bit, but they really made a statement there in points to the paint. A lot of that was transition. Arkansas plus, 23-5, so plus 18 in transition scoring. So a lot of that was some of that production was your points in the paint, because most of those were layups and dunks off of steals. Arkansas had 11 steals. I will say this about Baylor: the Bears did collect 8 steals against Gonzaga. So Arkansas has been turnover prone. The 2 exhibition games, they had suffered 10 each in just the second halves of those games. Against Lipscomb, they started poorly, turning the ball over. I think they had 5 in the first 10 minutes and only 7 the rest of the way, 30 minutes. So you ended up with 12. You were plus 7 in the turnover department, 19-12. I really think this is a game where, when we're looking at margins again, let's pay attention to fast break scoring. If Arkansas is in the plus column in turnovers and it's not just 1 or 2 there, and they get out in transition, that's going to give Arkansas a chance to win that game. Because Arkansas hasn't been good shooting from 3. I'm not going to predict that or expect that. So you got to get it somewhere. And Baylor will present a much more physical challenge than Lipscomb did. If you noticed Arkansas's guards, the only thing, probably the second best part of Arkansas's offense, beyond, I don't know what that is, some kind of air horn siren. We are having inclement weather here today, but I don't know if the red stuff's out yet. So, but if Arkansas gets it in transition, that's what Arkansas has been better at than every team so far. The 2 exhibition games, Kansas, TCU, obviously Lipscomb. If Arkansas has an advantage there, that's going to help Arkansas get to the finish line with a win. You want the margins to be a little, similar maybe to Lipscomb in the turnover department. You were minus 6 against TCU. That was a formula for losing. Until we see this team shoot better from 3, I'm not a believer on that. Not to say it won't happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And you hope Baylor has another stinker of a night shooting the ball. That helps you out as well. But the other part is, what is your second part in your offense that has stood out so far? And to me, since the Kansas game, Arkansas's ball movement hasn't been as good. And their attack angles, off-ball movement haven't been as good as since Kansas. And we know Kansas was shorthanded. But TCU, Arkansas was stagnant in the second half of that game, especially the fourth quarter. Stagnant at times in the first half. Yeah, you scored 76 points, but again, a lot of that was live ball turnovers, getting out in transition. You didn't get to the free throw line much. You didn't do that either against TCU. That's another area. When you're not being physical and you're not attacking players, that's one thing. Lipscomb, we talked about this in the pregame. We talked about it in the postgame. It was a team that didn't foul a lot, but also didn't put up a lot of resistance defensively. That's why Arkansas's second best offense after transition off live ball turnovers was just Arkansas's talented guards and wings attacking at the point of attack, their man, driving their defenders into the paint. Lipscomb did not gap help very well. It probably speaks a lot to why that team doesn't put teams at the foul line, because they don't really clutter things up. They tried to play that zone, but the gaps were not covered. And Arkansas's talented guards and had athleticism and length and strength pluses and advantages there, just drove down those defenders, those backcourt defenders, got into the paint. It was still one-on-one. There wasn't much help. That won't be the case against Baylor. So that's why you want to have your transition offense be a key for you, because you may not be able to add a whole lot to that. Arkansas's got guys I think that are capable of knocking down threes, but we just haven't seen it in an efficient manner. You want to see Nelly Davis get going. 1 of 4 against Lipscomb. Didn't do much in the 2 exhibition games. We know he'd been hurt and been out for about 3 weeks. Boogie Fland's been good offensively, just not shooting from 3 yet after looking great in those 2 tip-off tour practices. So you're waiting to see who's going to emerge shooting threes. We know like Big Z likes to take them, but I don't think you're going to be able to, that can help you a little bit, but I don't think you're necessarily doing good if he's taking a high volume there to help your percentage. He's a guy that, if you look at the physicality games, he didn't have Hunter Dickinson to battle in that first exhibition game. TC was more physical. I thought that impacted him. Lipscomb, again, not a physical team. He had a big second half after kind of picking up foul trouble early in that first half and having to sit. I thought Big Z might have been as big a catalyst as anybody for turning back. Obviously, that run, Lipscomb had to cut a 15-point lead down to 4 with about 8+ minutes left, and Big Z went on a run, 6-0 run. Arkansas went back out double digits. And so you've seen opportunities in all 3 games. Kansas tried to get back into that game at times, and Arkansas would go on a run. Arkansas built a 13-point lead late in the third quarter against TCU. Horned Frogs went on a run, and Arkansas never really stopped it. Arkansas lost that game by a point at the end. And then you saw that Lipscomb run. Arkansas turned it back and ended up winning by 16. Same margin as Kansas. So, you don't ever want to look back at scores and then make predictions off of that. But based on the eye test and what we've seen of this Arkansas team, they've been pretty good at stemming the tide, at least in 2 of 3 games. And Baylor may be another one of those opportunities. Again, I don't expect either team to run away with it and looking ahead at the final 5 or 4 minutes and thinking that all they got to do is just finish the game out and now they're playing the clock and not the opponent. I think both of those teams are likely very much in that game at that stretch. And now it's about how do you finish. I'm still not sure who Arkansas's go-to guy is. Because you haven't been in a position to need a go-to guy at the end of games. They didn't need it against Kansas. They didn't need it against Lipscomb. They needed it against TCU, and they didn't score in the last 2:38. They didn't score a whole lot going back to the late stages of the third quarter after building a 13-point lead. So who's the go-to guy? Who can you turn your offense over, do some iso ball, and just let them go to work? You think that might end up being a Nelly Davis or a Boogie Fland. Both of those guys, to me, have been the best shot creator so far. DJ Wagner's been pretty good off drives, and that's another form of shot creation, but it's pretty predictable. He keeps his 3-point volume down. He doesn't want to take a lot of those. And so now it's just a matter of, can he win that battle, that one-on-one battle? He's trying to get as close to the cup as he can. I think there's maybe more of a variety of go-to stuff for Boogie Fland, and he'll pass off of that. I think he's Arkansas's best ball handler and potential facilitator. Nelly Davis, of course, we just haven't seen it involved, in high doses yet. But he did have a 15-point game against Lipscomb, and so that was helpful for Arkansas in that game. He ended up kind of settling in. He started for the first time after not starting either one of the exhibition games. Jonas Aidoo's another big question mark. Is he in the lineup? That helps Arkansas's physicality immediately. But he only played 7 minutes against Lipscomb. 3 rebounds. At that pace, he'd have 9 rebounds in 21 minutes. So it just tells you when he's on the floor, it kind of changes Arkansas's, presence in the paint, presence around the rim, and the ability to start winning those rebounding battles. Arkansas has incrementally gotten better in the total rebounds. -1 against Kansas, I think +3 or 4 or 5 against TCU in the overall, and then finally +6 against Lipscomb. So it's gotten a little bit better, but Arkansas hasn't been great on the offensive glass. They lost the 2 exhibition games on offensive glass and second chance points. They were +1 on the offensive glass against Lipscomb, but -12 in second chance points. So this is where Jonas Adu really helps your team fill in those blanks physically, and turns turns some of those margins the other way. And now you may have a more comfortable lead, or not as big a hill to climb if you're in a tight game late. Toughness and physicality always play into these games when they get to grinding situations where possessions are longer, and things don't go as easily. You want those enforcers in there. You want somebody that can put that stamp on, just like a Kamani Johnson used to do. Jonas Adu is a better player, an all-league caliber player, but how much does he play? Only 7 minutes the other night. Didn't have a field goal. It was pretty nice. He backed the guy down and went, finished over him, close range. And so those are things that just add to your repertoire as a team as you try to get to, a victory. And we saw Adu Thero, and how about Norshad Omier, the double-double machine that transferred from Miami, undersized power forward at Baylor. I think he did score in double figures against Gonzaga, 9 rebounds. He didn't quite get to double-double status. But that'll be an interesting matchup just because Thero's actually a little taller, a little bigger, more athletic. But one guy has a knack and a nose for the ball, tracking those rebounds, offensive rebounds as well, and he finds ways to get in that scoring column. Thero's not a proven scorer. I know he had 20 points at TCU, but I don't know that he instinctively finds ways to get in double figures every game. He doesn't have a whole lot of those in his career so far. Doesn't mean that he won't turn that on and get there, but a lot of stuff that we've said all along, he's really good as a slasher out in the open court. You saw that against Lipscomb, but not really a shot creator so far beyond that. And again, it's not like Omir's a big-time shot creator, but he is a guy that because of all the volume of rebounds consistently, gets a lot of second-chance opportunities, and he's just in the right place at the right time a lot too. And then you look at Baylor again, Langston Love, is he going to be available? Double-figure score last year. We talked about Jonas Adu. How much is he going to play? You would like to see an increased role for him. Then you look across to the other bench and see, is Langston Love available? That could really change a lot of the dynamic for Baylor, because he's a veteran college guy. I mentioned this before, played with Pro Hog Moses Moody back at Montverde Academy. Moody's in his 4th NBA season. That tells you, Langston Love's been around for a while. And again, I think he averaged 11 or so points a game last year. He's a guy that can stretch your defense with 3-point shooting. He can play a physical game as well. More Carter Knox. Yeah, I didn't get to the freshman. I went back and watched that game, a replay of it after being there and seeing it live. You don't get to watch replays. And I really thought Carter Knox, especially at the end of the first half, helping Arkansas expand that 11-point lead. That step back 3, and then just that blow by on a slash in the half court for a dunk. I mean, again, I said it with pregame, and we talked about it in postgame. Lipscomb just does not put up much of a physical resistance. And those plays are not going to be as easy against a team like Baylor. But he did some good things. And I thought Billy Richmond was very disruptive defensively. Collected some steals. He likes to get out and run. He'll make a good pass. He'll finish at the rim. If you throw a lob to him, you can count that. So both of those guys, their roles are going to continue to increase. DJ Wagner didn't have his best game. 2 games in a row, high turnovers, 5 against TCU, 3 against Lipscomb. Didn't make a 3 in either game. Didn't take a lot, though, so you're probably glad about that. But I do think Arkansas is going to need him maybe to step up and be a little bit better and consistent in both halves while taking care of the basketball. Remember, he was a low turnover guy at Kentucky, and then he's had 8 in these last 2 games. One of them didn't count. That loss doesn't count, by the way. Just the same as the win over Kansas, and last year Purdue didn't count. And the 30-point blowout loss at Texas 2 years ago, I was there as well. But DJ Wagner, to me, Arkansas could use him stepping up. Look, one of the things, going back and watching Brazil and some of the stuff he's doing, I mean, he finished around the rim, out in transition. He had a tip in. He's not really scoring a lot. He hasn't been the guy that's, when the ball's in his hands, he's finding ways to find shot attempts. He's basically been an opportunistic scorer, again, off tip ins and transition. But he's gotten better defensively in terms of some of his physicality. Now it's hit and miss, but there's been more hits with some of that, and the rebounding has been consistent at least the last 2 games. So he led Arkansas with 8 against Lipscomb, and against TCU he had 9. So you want to continue to see him help Arkansas. There's enough offensive firepower in that backcourt, and then when there are games when maybe if you have 2 of those guards that are off, you're going to need some people on the front court to step up. You think Jonas Adu will be one of those, but Brazil also has the ability to be a 12 to 15 point guy. Consistently, I don't know, but on any given night, he's capable of it. We have not seen that yet, either in exhibition season or in the opener against Lipscomb. So we're keeping on that. Big Z can give you some offense, and he's been good at that. But also, I still have some question marks about his ability to deal with more physical teams. I don't think he's done as well in those situations. Kansas would have been different had Hunter Dickinson been available. He wasn't. That's not the knock on Big Z. He's done some really good things so far, but I think there's still some areas of growth for him, like any player. But he did add some weight, but I don't know how strong he really is relative to some of these teams they're going to face. And so you're really waiting for the day Jonas Adu is available in a normal role for him that's expected, and is he fully ready? Having watched him in person the other night and then watching the replay of it, he's moving a little better than I saw him move in just a little bit of drill work in Hot Springs and Pine Bluff. But still, I think they're still working him back into it. But it was good to see him out there. And again, 7 minutes, 3 rebounds, 2 points. He showed he high pointed the ball a couple of times on those rebounds, and nobody seemed like they wanted to battle him for him. Sometimes when you're just big like that, guys, they don't want that challenge. They just go ahead and hustle back to the other end. So let's see what availability Arkansas has with Adu Saturday night. That may play. That might. I mean, if he's full go and can give you 20 to 25 minutes, I don't expect that. But if he were to do that, that could be potentially game altering for Arkansas. It changes dynamics for your team in that paint area around that rim. I don't know how much you're going to expect to see him get out and run in transition like he did some at Tennessee right now. But in half-court settings, he helps you out in a big way. Nelly Davis, you want to see him continue to do what he did against Lipscomb. And at some point, you're hoping Arkansas has a breakout game from the three-point line in concert with at least being even in the physicality department while Adu works his way back. And then you're hoping Arkansas increases that volume of free throws, get fouls, get into the basket, get more fouls, and then it depends on who's shooting those free throws a lot in terms of where your percentage is. Arkansas was really good again against Kansas, 82+% on 28 attempts. Combining these last 2 games, Arkansas was much less than that in attempts in 2 games and shot very poorly. 4 of 7 against Lipscomb, 6 of 11 against TCU, and those teams were a little better than Arkansas at the foul line. So Arkansas has certain keys to doors it would like to be able to open against Baylor to give itself a chance to win. I'm going to wrap this. I'm looking forward to being at that game. 6:30 is tip-off time. It'll be on ESPNU Saturday at American Airlines Center. Let me see if I can. Isaiah Joe comes out and gets some pregame shots up. He's not out there right now. I was looking to see if he was, so I could tell you all about it. But we're almost 25 minutes in here. But yeah, tip off around 6:30. I'll be getting into the arena maybe a couple hours before that. Get as much video and content out as I can. Maybe some more commentary over Twitter. And then obviously we'll have a game story, and I'm going to do a post game from there. Again, I think it's a slight advantage Baylor just because they're a little closer to home and because they've had extra days to work on, getting back on the right track. So a slight advantage there. That doesn't mean I think that it's a foregone conclusion. And certainly you get Jonas Adu back in a bigger role. It increases your chances there. And if you don't, you still have enough. You still got enough there to win that game. You just need to play a game closer to what you put together against Kansas. It's harder to do away from home. There's adversity. It's harder to do. It's out of your comfort zone. But they got out of their comfort zone for TCU in the same area, and they felt like that would help the team coming back to Dallas for the game that counts. And so don't underestimate that. That may be a factor. We'll talk about all that stuff when we do the post game. This has been, I expected coming in here that I'd be able to put this on the on the tripod and not have a shaky screen where I'm changing hands. My arms get tired and I talk too much for my arm's sake. One Razorback, yep. Yeah, so I'm, again, if Arkansas's got Nellie Davis, Boogie Fland, and DJ Wagner, all kind of hitting on cylinders against Baylor, it may be a long night for the Bears. But the Bears, we talk about Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, and Boogie Fland, those three freshmen for Arkansas, they're in that top 9 rotation. I mentioned the 2 guards, VJ Edgecombe for Baylor, Robert Wright III, who had a good, at least first game, a freshman on the road at Gonzaga in a blowout loss. It's hard to say anybody had a good game, but he was productive. So there's some freshman dynamics on both sides of the ball. Whose freshman steps up? Whose freshmen show out? How much of that impacts the outcome of the game? Obviously, if it's going to be a tight game, you want your young players clicking on cylinders or figuring it out and getting. For sure, if they start slow, be strong at the end, and then you want your veteran guys to understand what kind of stage this is. That's why I look at a Trevor Brazile. That's why I look at a Nellie Davis in the lineup. Adu Thero. This is an opportunity for Thero to convince some people that he's worthy of that. Some of those mock draft for the next NBA draft 2025. Some of those late first round projections. So some of that you want to go out and play like this isn't the first time you've been in a big game like that. It certainly isn't for those names I just mentioned. DJ Wagner too, to some degree, going through those wars in the SEC, he's been shaky. You want to see him get stable and settled again, and give Arkansas a solid backcourt game for as long as he's on the court. I did notice anytime he subs out, or Boogie Fland subs out, or Nellie Davis subs out, for the most part, Arkansas's had some letdowns, and they've been trying to get those guys right back in the game as soon as they can. That tells you that some of those guys like Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, the more reps they get, the more reliable they'll be. And again, when Jonas Seydoux gets back, that's a steadying force too on your front line. That's only going to help Arkansas. Arkansas needs to play inside first, not outside first. If they do, they will be a dominating team. Well, I mean, the three-point shooting, they've taken 24 in each of the 2 exhibition games, and then only 21. I mean, they're still, 19, in the last game against Lipscomb. So they brought it down a little bit. And if they hit them, then they're going to want to take more. But so far, they just haven't looked very good at it. And their offense gets stagnant, to me, when they're not attacking. And I agree, play inside out. You can set those pin down screens. That Arkansas against Lipscomb, the first offensive possession, Big Z set a pin down up high around the elbow. Then he slipped down and set a low pin, and then turned and posted up immediately. And Arkansas didn't throw it to him; they passed out of that. But that was that was something that they did. You can play inside out with him because of what a good passer is. You can play outside with Adu and kind of clear things like they did twice. And he took 2 shot attempts, and both times they got the ball to him low and made sure other offensive players were clearing defenders away to the other side so that he could just go to work one-on-one. And then if the help comes, the veteran players like that know to get off the ball, pass to the open guy. And so the more you play to your strengths, maybe the more Arkansas will do better in some of these areas they haven't been as good at, like shooting threes. So there's been some pretty good design at times that I've seen in what Calipari's run out there. I like some of the stuff they try to do to get Nelly into spots that he likes. Boogie's done a good job of just kind of finding his spots and creating those. And of course, DJ, when he gets the ball, he just likes to, whichever direction the defender's leaning, he likes to attack them to the other side so that he can get level with them or downhill on them. And now he's got leverage because he's not going to blow by a lot of guys. He's not explosive like that. He's not going to explode the rim, but he gets to those angles. And he had some tough shots that just didn't go down. A reverse layup, another little floater, a couple of shots that were in and out on him against Lipscomb. It could have been a different game for him. All right, I probably left some stuff out. I was really thinking I was going to be able to sit down, and I sat down for 5 hours driving here from Little Rock. All right, once again, I'm going to sign off. The next time we'll be on is post-game. Arkansas Baylor, Saturday night, late sometime when that game ends, starts at 6:30. I'll do post-game pressers and get a little article out before I come on. But I will come on to do the post. Hopefully it's after an Arkansas win if you're a Razorbacks fan. Baylor fans will be watching this content if they win to see what was said about it. And then we hope tonight, I'm going to have a game story for here covering this game between the Oklahoma City Thunder and Houston Rockets tonight. I will have a game story I'll put out. That'll be at HogvilleNET. I'll tweet out the link to it. And hopefully Isaiah Joe has a good night and the Thunder win again. They're 7-1, best record in the Western Conference last year. The number 1 seed in the playoffs for the Western Conference. Things didn't work out. They made some moves in the off season, and now they're dealing with injuries. It's not just Jalen Williams. Isaiah Hartenstein, the big man they got, free agent from the New York Knicks, is out. He's been hurt most of the regular season. Now, he might have gotten hurt. I don't know if it was early in the regular season or if it was in the end of sometime in preseason, but he's been out. So the front line, they're back to being kind of a smallish team, but man, they got some really good guards and playmakers. We won't go through all that, but Isaiah Joe is one of them. And it is a young, someone saying a young, hungry Thunder squad. You got that right. Maybe this is the year they go further in the playoffs and maybe even get to the finals. All right, thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to enjoy this game. I'm going to get coverage out on it. Be working all day tomorrow, getting down to Dallas and putting content out. Hope you enjoyed this pregame as number 16 Arkansas plays number 8 Baylor, 6:30 p.m. ESPNU Saturday at American Airlines Center in Dallas. I'll be there. Until next time, see you then.